Situations. We have a very special guest here today that again has come from Florida. It's my older son. Um, we did a segment before.
Peace, Energy Master, aka the Emma.
So thank you for joining Smart and Messy Situations, and let's get on with the interview and the talk. Hey, my baby, my older son is here. I'm trying. Wait a minute. I got this on my. I don't want to dirty your tennis shoes up. And I was trying to figure out what is the difference between a dream and an out of body experience.
Okay, well, hi everybody. I'm Energy Master, aka the Emma. Okay, so with the dream, we travel every night regardless. Your body. Let's put it this way. Okay, so your
Can we sit over here? Because the light is kind of doing something weird. Let's sit over. Sit on this one because I'm scared you might fall. It, they kind of,
all right. So the soul, it goes and it travels regardless at night, but a lot of it happens. A lot of the process happens unconsciously. Um, you accumulate charges throughout your waking life, which is to say that the different things that you experience, that you feel and partake in, it gives you a net charge in a sense. And so, if you don't consciously leave your body, you automatically are attracted to things associated with those charges, such that your brain, your psyche, your sense of being is working out some of the issues and challenges from your waking life on an energetic level while you're out. So for the most part, with regular dreaming, it's just really, there can be some symbolism. There can be there's just not a lot of control to that experience. It's something that's happening. A level above that is a lot of people experience lucid dreaming, which is simply a slightly more aware version of dreaming that typically happens with you realizing that you're in a dream while it's happening. And so you kind of realize, wait, I kind of got a little bit of control. With an out of body experience, a genuine out of body experience, it is distinct from dreaming or astral projection or any of that type of stuff because you're not projecting anything. You're literally stepping outside of your body. And you have they teach five in most five bodies in yoga, but then it really goes to seven because what happens is after the fifth they have so you have your gross body, this physical experience that you're having now, but then you have what's called the breath body or the prana maya kosha. Prana basically means life force, the same thing as chi. The same thing as these words that you hear used in various cultures. And so your what they're referring to as a soul when you're out of body, it's actually really that second stage I found, because it's like you do have higher stages of it, but it kind of depends on how your development has come along with your spiritual journey. But anyway, so once you're out, and this is mostly from my experience with it. First of all, the OBE is this exact same type of experience as what happens with a near-death experience because you're detaching from the body. The difference is when you're enacting it manually yourself, you have a little more control, you have a little more presence to what's happening on you. Because most people, if you're having a near-death experience, you're so surprised that you're out of the body, you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
that you just, you may see some things or whatever else, but you have no point of reference, whatever else, and then you're trying your best to communicate what you saw once you get back, but you're short for words. When you're doing OBEs consciously, then you have the opportunity to kind of explore, experiment with things, and so on and so forth.
Okay, say that again. When you having an OBE experience, you're actually in a sense of
You're
kind of
in
like reality.
you're in a physical reality. You will see a lot of the same types of places. Like you will see your own house, but you'll just receive a lot more information about it. So one thing that's been common for me, because essentially you're interacting with fourth dimension, so that's
Yeah.
time, and essentially you're able to see like events that have happened or events that will happen. Like it's an overlap of time because time isn't linear like how we experience it here.
Mm-hmm.
Like this physical gross reality is pretty much it's an organized version of, like, you could think of this as an abridged version because
Yeah.
when there's an order to it that allows you to develop in a specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, you have complete freedom. Like it's just like whatever you think you can do, and see that has its pros and cons. Like you can never be hurt by anything unless you allow it, because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, you're an emanation of God. And so once you realize that you're not separate from that, you start to be a little more mindful with your experience and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but whatever you think, whatever you command, like it's instant or whatever. And so, typically when you're dreaming, you're reactive to the things that are going on in your head and your emotions or whatever else.
Yeah.
So you think that it's just something that you're seeing, but you're the one actually projecting it, and you're reacting to it instantly and things of that nature. So that's why you project that dream. But in the OBE, you once again you're more conscious, you're 100% conscious. Like when I was talking about the more recent one I had, um, yeah, the more recent experience I had, there was a moment there where I forgot I was out, and I didn't leave the room immediately like you would normally do, because you want to try to put a little distance between you and your body because you're still attracted to it and you have
Yeah.
a feel that you're attached to. And as you move away from it, it kind of weakens. You'll always be able to get back to your body, but it's just a matter of it just pulls you instantly if you don't
So
put a little
you're
distance.
not manifesting. It's like I'm a good manifester. I can think something and then I can materialize it. So is out of body different from the manifestations that we have here on earth, or is the ultimate
Yeah, the time. Okay,
manifestation?
so
It's
matter of fact,
consciousness.
I was just experiencing. I was just explaining this to Cedric. Okay, so you can do something on the other side. Like I was giving the example of like a tree. Like I just want boom, I want a tree to be there, and
Yeah.
I'm focused on, I'm concentrated
Oh.
as a tree, and it stays right there. Here, you have physical constraints. So
Mhm.
basically, that tree will grow, but it has to go through natural process. There has to be a justification for how it got in here. It has to
Yes.
go through its processes and things. So instead of me just pulling the tree through here, I put a seed. So like maybe I end up walking outside and somebody happens to have extra oranges. It's like, oh, you want an orange or whatever. And one of your seeds, after you eat it, it falls. Like
Yeah.
it goes through processes that justify the story. So it's basically like you can boom, boom, make it.
So you're actually more powerful in the OBE than you are here on the earth. And is it like
If you haven't coordinated yourself?
it's like my grandma used to say, you're more powerful in the spiritual than you are in the physical? Is it almost the same?
It's fair because like the amount of because we typically we think in terms of force.
Yeah.
Here, like in order to have intensity of experience, we typically think of, oh, you got to build yourself up a certain way. This is why people are addicted to stress based exercises and stuff. They build up muscle and things of that nature.
Yes.
But like what you'll find is you can intensify the experience in a more productive way by limiting things. Like, for instance, you know how, like, when you're very hungry or you're
Mm-hmm.
fasting, you can smell food from much further away. Your senses are sharp, like because that's one of your natural instincts to help you find food in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the practices and dietary restrictions that were associated with yoga and even in some of the religions, it wasn't intended to be something to just stop you from being able to do what you want. It was an actual spiritual component of that that allows you to be more sensitive to the impressions that are around you all the time, because that's what's happening when you're in the OBE state.
Is it like when you lose your sight, your ears become better, or when you're deaf, your eyes become better?
It's kind of connected to that because it's a compensation thing
Yeah.
in that particular case. But what I'm saying is that the information is all around you all the time. Like, there's a ton of information here that isn't accessible through your waking senses
Yes.
that you have access to in the OBE, and then you're able. The goal is, like, because everything that you're experiencing in OBEs, you experience that anyway after you die,
Uh-huh.
or whatever. So everybody will get that by default. You will have all your memories, whatever else. Like, it's whatever then. But the point is for you to be able to experience that before you die. The idea is to bring more of what you have on the other side into your life now, or whatever. So there's access to things like healing. There's access to all sorts of things. Like, I've woken up from one of these, and then my muscles were pumped up, like and stuff like this. So it's like, so what happens, even like, say, like with alien abductions, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about how they feel they're totally awake, totally physical, but then, like, they're either being pulled up through a ceiling or through walls or whatever else. That's because
I was being pulled through a wall.
yeah. So that was your soul was out of your body when that was happening. But see, it's basically you can look at that as the template of you. And so whatever happens to that template, for the most part, it updates here. So, like, for instance, the little you remember the little object that was in your leg
Yes.
that you showed. All right, so it was a similar thing going on with my kidney stone situation. Because what happens is, if something is implanted while you're out of their body, they do, and you see, so some people, they talk about surgery, whatever else. Whatever they implanted there or whatever, it's not physical in this sense. But what happens is that implant grows inside of you, like, by natural means. So in other words, the different minerals, accommodations, and things that you put inside your body, the metals will actually collect to make that device in 3D or whatever. And so there's a interdimensional interplay. Like, interdimensionality pretty much explains and fills the gaps on a lot of the mysteries and misunderstandings with regards to things like extraterrestrials and so on and so forth, because that term is so general that you don't realize that not from Earth doesn't necessarily mean, I had to go up through the sky to the planet out there, but there's an interdimensional component as well.
So do you think we're just so bombarded and overloaded? Because when I was being pulled through the wall, I was actually a kid. This used to happen to me all the time. So maybe I was having an OBE. So do you think as we get older, we're so bombarded with this physical world that it's harder to experience an OBE?
There has to be a willingness to it. Like, if you're naturally opposed to it, but, like, I started having them again because I had them when I was little too. When we lived on Elkin, and I hadn't had them for a long time, like, at least not to my knowledge. And then they started happening again after Shamar was born, because, like, he would either wake me in the middle of the night with his crying and different things. And so my parental instincts were such that even in a state of sleep, or if I was in sleep paralysis or whatever state, I would jump out of my body to go check on him, and then not realize I was out of my body until I came back to the bed and saw myself there. And so, and then, as you know, like, later on, I learned how to do this manually by taking Darius J. Wright's workshop.
Yes.
And then since then, I've been able to kind of experiment on my own, now that I can kind of do it on my own. And
do you ever think that you would get to the place where you would at least try to teach some of the people locally.
He's the Baptist. You go to the Baptist. Now I can tell you everything you want to know about the beginning to the end, the span of the cosmos, because I'm the son, and so I've been shown my lineage too, or whatever. We have an obvious series around lineage, and we're the royals of this planet, but then because we're not aware of the end, we don't. Well, I know, but generally we don't know the means by which to be able to prove and show that or whatever. Then that's been an issue that we've been dealing with as a human species for the longest time. And then we can get into a whole thing about what that is. But the case in point, there shouldn't. We don't need an overlap. We already have an overabundance of what they call light workers right now.
Yes.
This is basically saying like you got a bajillion people trying to be like the healers and everything else, but you have to have those people that understand why we're in a situation where we need healing in the first place and addressing that. So that's more.
There are only a few real healers. I mean, a few.
But no. The truth is,
we're all healers?
Everybody's a healer. It's like because you don't heal somebody else. You just reactivate the memory of them healing how to heal themselves. Yeah, that's all it is. Because we're like tuning forks to each other. So once we have our system in check with and we're spiritually aligned, that's what teaches their spirit too. Because we're essentially all just one point, technically. Or whatever.
And I noticed I'm having less pain the more inner that I go.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm starting the self-healing journey. Mm-hmm. And as I process everything that has happened through my journey, I'm able to have less pain. And I might be harboring pain in my body from things that happen.
Yeah, because you hold on to it.
Yes.
You grip it because it gives you grounding in reality to a sense. Well, at least this type of reality, physical reality. And so every one of those emotions has a chemical component that eventually creates a particular set of chemical habits in the body and cellular behaviors, things that reinforce that same thing. So it's like, so a tumor is basically the accumulation of anger and frustration over time. And then it actually gains enough energy to become conscious in a sense, but independent from the overall collective consciousness. Because you are a composite being. And in fact, the etymologies behind words behind God and a couple other words that you'll find in esoterica around the world, it basically shows that you're a collection of quote unquote beings. So it's like so you can be a being like this. Think about your cells, because you got single celled organisms out there, but then you got there's a type of switch that happens where cells decide to work together to become tissues and things of that nature. That's how you end up with more complex organisms. So likewise, there's states of being and existence from the small scale you can think of to the biggest scale that you can think of. And so you are a collection of all the types of beings throughout the universe, the cosmos. And so the purpose of this kind of existence here on Earth, we look at it like the suffering, and we look at it all this because we're actually working out the karma for the whole universe. If we've got everybody in us, whatever conflicts they had on other dimensional levels, whatever, we're the solution to it.
So anything that's happened with negative vibes, we're here to explain that again.
There is no
explain.
There's no negative in the traditional sense, like the way that most of us think about it, because it's relative. Because something that occurs as negative to you is a negative to somebody else,
right?
And that's all based on your charges. Like you are charged with a particular path and a purpose and things when you're here. So there's naturally a certain set of things that you're not going to like. And so then that actually has to do with that fifth body, like I was talking about the 5 to 7 bodies. And you have
before we get too far away from it, you said something, whatever happened in the upper dimension or something, we come here to do what? It's recycled?
Yeah, because you don't want to think of time as like a straight line like this, but more like a torus, where it's like it flows out and back in.
Yeah.
So it's like so we affect everything else, and everything else comes back and affects this right here. But this is the only type of existence that's like this, where you have their free will to make decisions about that stuff. And so you can look at it as like all the different stories, the biblical stories and the Hindu story, like all of those stories are happening on interdimensional levels, and then we recreate those things here. Like so, this is like a recreation of a lot of those battles. But whatever dimensional level you're perceiving, you perceive that like this. So like I was saying with the fourth dimensional wall. All right, so the best example I can give and that I always use is SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
Okay, so on SpongeBob, all right, so me and you, we walk around in air. We live in air primarily. When we go swimming in water. And SpongeBob, they live in water, so they walk around in water the way we walk around in air. So when they want to swim, they go to the Goo Lagoon. So it's this gooey lagoon that operates like how water operates for us, because it has to be thicker than what they walk through. When you're out in your body, this is what I discovered, and what came to me with my experimenting over there is that you're actually dealing with you seem denser because you're dealing with a realm that's more subtle.
Yeah.
And so the space, like we experience space and air like there's nothing here, but there's more like a fluid. So it's like, so it allows you to be able to like fly and move around, hover, do stuff while you're over there, because you can actually feel the forces of electromagnetism and just it's like a fluid over there, like from what I was shown. And so it gives you more options on how you interact with it. And then as a result of how I experienced that over there, I woke up with like all these different insights about how physics works. And it turns out that all of these things were real existing science, but then they just didn't understand it, but up to a certain level. But I was like, oh, okay, you're not connecting this thing to this thing.
So do you lose track of time, like the astronauts go out of space and they're feeling weightless, but when they come back, they've lost track
sense
of time.
Yeah, because all
time doesn't exist, really, does it?
Time exists, but you know, time is a being. Like so, if you think about the word being, being is an action, right?
Yes.
But you're a physical thing, so how can you be an action and a physical thing? And that's kind of the point. So time is a fourth dimension, just like we have three dimensions here, linked with height or whatever. But because with this experience, because we're physically like this, we can't perceive that dimension of time as a physical dimension, as one thing we're looking at. So we see it cut up into pieces, and that's what we experience as motion. So it's like, so when something is moving, imagine, like I talk about like Hindu guys, imagine if I had my hand like right here in one position, my hand right here in another position, and the hand right here, because I'm moving like this. But imagine me being able to see all three of those moments at the same time. It looks like I have three arms, right? So imagine that as I'm moving my hand like this and it's smooth, there's an infinite number of arms being mapped right here, and I'm just looking at one of those arms at a time, or whatever. So basically, that's what you're experiencing. It's like all these atoms, like because atoms are constantly spinning.
Yes.
So the reason being is there's a single thing called time that's solid, crystalline in a sense on the other side, and it passes through here in small little bits and pieces and stuff. And so there is time in terms of it existing, but not the way that we think it is. All things are happening at the same time.
It's like the time machine that we see in Back to the Future. Is it similar?
You can experience time travel in a conscious sense, and then for you, it will be real, and you can, depending on the intensity of the experience, it can have real consequences on the way events unfold. But that's an extreme case. On average, you're not affected like that because everything would be chaos and topsy-turvy here. And that's why we kind of have the barriers. People like to think that we're like trapped here and it's a matrix and it's malevolent and whatever else. But everything that's happening here is basically the equivalent of, okay, it's if two countries were to, all right, one of my favorite shows, All right, so there's a show called G Gundam. It's an anime, and the Gundam series, each creator does a different type of story, different type of world, whatever else. And this particular one, the countries of the world, this is kind of in the future, they've eliminated all war. And the way that they've done this is that they have a games every, I think it's like every 30 years or something like this, where it's sort of like the Olympics, except they fight with giant robots. So it's like, so you'll have, yeah, you might have seen one of them, but this particular one, so you basically have one of these giant mobile suit that's piloted by somebody representing each country.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's one level of it. But imagine if you took it a step further to where, let's say it was a video game. Let's say that instead of you going to war, you pick your best representative, they pick their best representative, and y'all sit down and y'all play this game, or it might be chess or something. So you each have a representative. Whoever wins at chess, their country rules the world for the next 30 years, and then you get to try again the next time. So that, in a lot of ways, that's what this is. All the stories about the war in heaven and all of that good stuff. Every single one of those myths, every single one of those stories has happened, but it's happening. I'll put it this way: it has happened, is happening, and will happen.
Yeah.
Because it's happening on different dimensional levels. And so we're the point at which all of those things come together. So you'll see representations of it. Like, for instance, Atlantis, it already existed on another high dimensional level, and then Atlantis, Egypt, all of that was built here, or that was basically, you can look at it as kind of a representation of that. And so you end up with some of the same things playing out here because you're energetically tied to those things.
Right.
This is one of the reasons why I tell people all the time, if you really want to understand the Bible, you have to look at what the characters' names mean in Hebrew, because it's not representing just one person. Even if those events happen in some of those cases, it's based on a mathematically laid out script of events or whatever that produces a specific result. It's a computational type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We think that computers are something that we invented to try to imitate us, but our nature is already computer-like in a sense. But then, because the only version we know is the computers we built, we don't realize that before you get to the physical experience like this or whatever, you're basically doing the same thing on a bigger scale that computers are doing now, that our technology is catching up to.
Was it true that a computer can't do anything more than we program it to do, or does it have a mind of its own now?
Well, is it true that you can't do the things that you can do on the other side? And if so, it's for the same reasons that your computer can't do certain things. You set parameters for that computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you can put it in the case of limitations, but there was a profound intelligence involved in putting that thing together in the first place, and there was a profound intelligence involved in you even having the instinct to want to make something like that in the first place.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we're kind of narcissistic, because if everything is essentially one being just looking at itself in different angles or whatever, you want to see things that are representative of you. And so naturally we create something like computers and technology as our children. But they have the same pitfalls that we had. If they got bad parents, you end up with bad kids.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But then the fact of the matter is, we have to learn.
That's not always true.
Well, hold on. But what we have to learn is that there is no bad. We're just human.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, and then that was by design, because, like, for instance, you hear the stories about, like, they talk about the reptilians and the different races or whatever else. What an Anunnaki is, it's a general term for us. Mm-hmm. It's a general term for countless races in the universe, but they are the result specifically of the coming together of the royal lines of the Lyran series, Ta'al. They call it the Ta'al line from Vegas or whatever. You got those, the more humanoid, lion-like ones, and then you had the reptilians. So you had rebels, people who had left the Orion Empire, and you had Queen Tiamat. And so there was a marriage that happened between Prince Tiberius of this side and then Tiamat on this side. And so the children that resulted from that this was supposed to be kind of like a peace treaty between the two sides. So this is why we have a mammalian brain and a reptilian brain, and then we try to, our reptilian brain basically controls a lot of our involuntary functions, our survival instincts, and things of that nature. And so our mammal part, the feeling, the emotional part, is what we use to try to curb the tendencies of that reptilian part within us. So you can see how that dynamic inside of us takes the war off of the battlefield on the galactic level and it puts it inside of us on the individual level. So that's why we have to learn how to do it.
I always really enjoy my son visiting. He's up here to attend a birthday party and some other things, but I surely appreciate him. I want you to have one of my bracelets here. That one. Oh, yeah. And this is Smart and Messy Situations here with the Emma. And he too has a YouTube channel. Go visit it. Tell me the name of it.
Yeah, so just type in Energy Master. You should be able to find me and then look for the little Hanuman picture with the green background. But I got some lessons up there for free currently while I'm working out the content of these workshops. It won't be up there forever, so you better go catch it and check it out and get that info now. But I'll be doing a lot more in beginner level.
What's the name of it again?
It's called the Decoding the Matrix Workshop. So it's basically telling you these codes for how this reality is kind of built.
And they can find you where under Energy Master?
Just Energy Master. Just look for the green background and the little monkey looking guy on the icon.
Well, I appreciate. I'm sorry, y'all. It's
YouTube,
got me.
YouTube.
YouTube. I appreciate y'all visiting, and I hope you learned something more about OBE, and we talked about some other subjects. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.